Welcome to Zen and the Art of Homeschooling. I'm Ollie Malley,
And I'm Michael Malley.
and today we're going to talk about reading aloud with your child, with your children.
I love reading aloud. It's just so much fun.
So much fun.
I don't know what we could do more to assist our children as readers than to instill in them a love of reading. There's a lot of people focused on, phonics and these sorts of things. What I would say is if they are inspired by reading, if they love books, we've certainly found this with all of our children, then they're going to want to go off and read books on their own. They're going to recognize the magic of story, the use of their imagination. Because, hey, right now, you've got all those different streaming services and there's stories galore, but there's something very different that happens. And we're speaking particularly of, I think, fiction at this moment, of when you awaken your imagination, when you picture the characters, when you decide what that scene looks like based on the information you're given by the author. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents start with this. They start reading aloud to their kids when they're small, and they really enjoy it. But I think as the kids get older, reading aloud sometimes just goes off the table. Once the kids start to learn how to read and they read by themselves, I think the parents think reading aloud time is over. And we're here to tell you it does not have to be.
Right.
We have read with our kids aloud way into their teenage years.
Yeah.
And part of that is sometimes reading aloud to them, but sometimes it's reading with them.
Right. And there's older kids may be resistant to this, but one thing you could tell them, this is the truth, is that people used to do this. They would read together as families. Ollie and I, we haven't done it much, but we've done it some where we've read a book together. It'd be lovely. Maybe we'll do that again. We haven't done it in 20 years, but if you have a partner, you could be reading together, reading aloud. So our eldest daughter, that's my stepdaughter, we started dating when Jazzy was just before she started kindergarten. She was 5 years old. And we didn't have our next kiddo until she was 12. So for years, we're raising one child. And while she was in school through all her years, reading aloud was an important part of that whole raising of Jazzy.
Right.
Yeah.
And we started reading aloud as a family. So there is reading aloud to one child, one parent reading to one child, or one parent reading to all the children, which is wonderful. But another thing you could try as a family is we read aloud as a whole family. This started back, she was probably 6 years old or so. And I just remember we were camping, I think in Wisconsin. We were at a tent, and I had brought along a copy of Little House on the Prairie. Actually, Little House in the Big Woods is
The very first book.
And this was a set of books that I had from when I was a kid. And I pulled one of those off, and I wanted to start. I knew we were going to be camping through the Midwest, and I wanted to start reading that with her. Yeah. And you were there.
I was, well, yeah, well, we were, of course I was there. We were together as a family by then. And I didn't read that many children's books as a kid, and I had never read any of the Little House books. And I remember Ollie's reading, and my memory is, I don't know if we started, again, couples, what you remember. My memory is that when we started reading that book, that Ollie said, "Oh, I had read these as a kid," and she wanted to read them to Jazz. And I said, "Oh, that's kind of cool. Why don't you read it and I'll just, do the bills or the checkbook or something like that and kind of listen, right?" And Ollie started to read. And our daughter, Jazzy, she's like 6 years old or something at the time, the age of our granddaughter now, she leans into me on one side. And then our big dog, Oreo, rest his spirit, our big dog, he leans into me on the other side. And I just set that aside. And I just leaned back, and Ollie did all the reading, and we all just listened. And then I think maybe it was later when we read in the woods. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows how the memory goes, right?
But we did read through the whole series of books. There's like 6, 7. books.
It took years.
It took years to read through those books.
Now, let me tell you why it took years, okay? So it took years because I was doing a lot of storytelling work where I would do, I do like family night programs, family literacy nights, and I'd go and tell stories at a school and be there in the evening. Those nights, they were not allowed to read the Little House series. If I'm not home, you ain't reading the book. So that's part of the reason why it took years. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Right. So we were probably reading from the time she was 6 to like 9 or 10, I think.
Well, from 5, I think, or maybe 6.
It was 6. Yeah. 6 till 9 or 10. And we are so fortunate because then we had another set of kids and we got to read all those books again.
And more.
And more. And one of the things we did with the 3 youngest kids is we did a lot of reading in the car, which is probably not what you're going to do now, but it's an invitation for you to do. Once you're in the car again, we would drive up to see your mom once a month, a 3-hour drive. And so on those drives, a lot of times, we would spend some time reading those books. And there were some books that we would read just as a family, like the Little House series. And we did the whole series again.
Yeah. So if I'm driving, she's reading. We didn't read and drive at the same time.
Right. And then there's some books that you would just read aloud, or that I would just read aloud to 1 or 2 or 3 kids. And we've kept that going.
Oh yeah.
For years.
And as kids got older, what we would do is I read a page, you read a page. I read a page, you read a page. And so doing that with kids, certainly through middle school, where, right now I'm reading with our youngest son, who's 13, we're reading Dune. I've never read Dune. It's awesome. I remember when our older son, when he was, in this age range, and we're reading Last of the Mohicans. We are reading through the Lord of the Rings series. There's just book after book, of course, and we'll share more about some of those books in the future and all the possibilities there. I love the old children's literature, but there's a lot of new stuff as well that's really high quality. Yeah.
Right. And when you're reading aloud, one of the things is you can choose books that might be a little bit above the reading level.
Yeah.
And with you reading them, they're going to be able to understand them much more. One is you can stop and explain things, but also when you're reading with feeling, the books are just more understandable than if they were sitting there reading them by themselves.
Right. And, if you were, in a group of people, you might be embarrassed to try and read and give a character voice and all of that sort of thing. And maybe another day I'll give a sample of how I do that, But if you're just there with your own kids, most of us, we're not so shy around our own kids. And just to give those character voices, that then gives them permission to do the same thing.
We've raised 4 kids that love to read.
Right.
And they all learned to read at different times.
Yeah,
It wasn't all, I don't think any of them was kindergarten that they learned to read. It was mostly, didn't become proficient at reading till 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah. One of the challenges with, traditional schooling is we kind of have this one-size-fits-all shoe, right? Everybody needs to be at this level at this age. And the reality is that there are developmental differences and that kids are going to progress at in different ways. But if they have a love of books, if reading isn't a source of frustration, but it's a source of joy, they're going to make progress. They're going to continue to make progress. And so that's part of the work is how do we create the space that they enjoy books, and reading aloud to your kids and with your kids is a wonderful way, making it fun. And you know what that is? That's also bonding time. Oh my goodness. When we have this 32-year-old daughter, she and I read a lot, just the two of us. Those are some of my finest memories, and with our younger kids too. I mean, we're in the midst of this crisis and it's hard, but at the same time, our children are going to continue to grow, and those who are 7 right now are going to be 17 in 10 years. Time is going, and to take some time and to create that space where you guys can cuddle up under a blanket or, sit outside together on the front porch or whatever it might be, and to be kind of enjoying the story together. Oh my goodness. It is such a lovely thing. And again, the lemonade out of the lemons of this situation. Some of these moments, just there wasn't time for them before. And there might be a little bit more time for them now. Enjoy that time. Yeah.
Enjoy that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cherish it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you another day.